been said that Denis Villeneuve's Dune films are some of the greatest adaptations of all time, on par with works such as To Kill a Mockingbird and even the Lord of the Rings trilogies. And now that I've finally finished reading both Dune and Dune Messiah, I have to admit, I agree, except for one singular issue: the character of Chani Kynes. As always, this video is brought to you by our patrons. To get access to ad-free content, vote on future video topics, or simply support this channel, check out the link in the description down below. Frank Herbert's Dune is one of the greatest sci-fi books and book series of all time, a seminal work in the cultural zeitgeist and a key player in informing our modern understanding of the sci-fi genre. With inspiration from ancient classic literature like Beowulf and Oedipus, he brought an epic scale and a contemplative tone to the sci-fi genre that was previously unprecedented. So the idea of adapting a piece of fiction as grand as this was a daunting task. Impossible, even. It had been tried before and failed several times. But in 2021, French-Canadian filmmaker Denis Villeneuve delivered a masterpiece. A masterpiece which made me fall in love. So I scrambled to read Dune and everything about Dune and Dune Messiah. And now that I've done that, I finally feel prepared to wander out into the wilderness of Dune video essays and offer my thoughts on both Dune Part 1 and 2 and their value as adaptations. And I have to say, these films are art. The creatives took a glimpse of a world, singular notes and subtle utterances, and fleshed them out into a grounded and complete universe. The ships, the action, the set design, the cinematography, and the casting, all superb. And much like Arrakis, the more I delve beneath the surface, the more I'm in awe of the artistry. The seamless blend of practical effects with CGI make these two films a cinematic masterpiece. And as adaptations, I think they're nearly flawless. Nearly. Starting out in the film world, I've always been against book nitpickers, and even now, as an author, I still am. I'm not bothered by the fact that they removed Tom Bombadil from the Lord of the Rings trilogy or that they changed Aragorn's character arc. In fact, I think the films are better off for it. And the same goes for Dune. Did I love that dinner scene in the book? Of course. Do I understand why it was cut from the films? Definitely. But when it comes to Chani, I believe the changes made to her character fundamentally undermine the narrative themes of Dune. To understand how, we first need to understand the Fremen. In the world of Dune, the Fremen are a nomadic tribe who live on the desert planet of Arrakis. They are masters of survival and stealth, and perhaps the greatest warriors in the whole galaxy, even taking on the Emperor Sardaukar with comparative ease. They are a superstitious people, with an almost religious devotion to the preservation of water and the sandworm. In the grand scheme of the universe, they are largely dismissed, and the planet of Arrakis is viewed as a barren wasteland, useless but for the limitless supply of spice housed on its surface. And Chani is one of these Fremen. When we first meet her in the films, she appears to be the perfect embodiment of her character from the books. Skinny, with an elfin face, bearing the dark and whiteless blue eyes of her fellow Fremen. Though she acts as more of a warrior than a survivalist. But as Dune Part 2 goes on, the differences in adaptation become quite clear. Chani is skeptical. Skeptical of Outworlders, skeptical of Paul, and strangely aware of Lady Jessica and the Bene Gesserit propaganda campaigns. She acts as a stand-in for the audience, criticizing Paul's actions as opposed to condoning him, and resisting him more and more as he slowly leans into his role as Messiah, using the Fremen and their people to take down the Harkonnens and get revenge for his family. Though she and Paul develop a romantic bond and relationship, she fears for him almost from the beginning and fears what he might become. And I think there's a few issues with this take on the character. Firstly, it's just not realistic. The whole point of the Fremen is that they're an indigenous people, held together by the hope of the Kwisatz Haderach and then the ecological renewal of the planet of Dune. The genius of Frank Herbert's world building is that he manages to so accurately create a vision of an indigenous people who are both simultaneously advanced and primitive in their thinking. The masterful fighting ability, survival skills, and reconnaissance tactics, their ability to collect water to survive, and yet underlying all of that is not simply the human will to live, but hope. Hope of the great divine, a purpose beyond themselves. I mean, whether you believe in God or not, this is human, and a perfect example of the accuracy with which Herbert portrays the human condition. So the fact that in Dune Part 2, Chani is somehow part of a separate Fremen tribe, one which has embraced the beliefs of agnosticism and is uniquely self-aware of the dangers of superstition, is just odd. See, in an attempt for her to serve as a mouthpiece for the audience, to voice their fears and concerns and add tension to the rise of Paul Atreides, Villeneuve created an entirely unrealistic character, one who would have been killed or banished for her controversial beliefs years ago. Now, I know that Villeneuve stated that many of his changes to Chani's character were to attempt to kind of bridge the gap between Dune and Dune Messiah and better portray the general thematic message of the evil of false messiahs. But I want to look more closely at the bridge that he built and the two narratives that he's trying to draw together. See, in the books, Chani is not only a believer in the superstition of Arrakis, she is a Sayadina, a priestess. She is a fighter, but to Paul, she is a wife. She is loyal in all things, strong but loving, and dedicated to the success of Paul and the construction of his legacy. Furthermore, she is the daughter of Chani Kynes, the Fremen imperial planetologist who retained Hopen and instruction about the ecological revolution of Dune, and is a sort of bridge between the wild rule of the Fremen and the tyrannical jihad of Paul Atreides. I understand the hesitance at embracing such a character, and certainly there's been a noted shift in how both men and women are written in the modern film and publishing industries today, but fans, even newcomers, aren't here for that. They're here to escape, to dive into the life, world, and politics of someplace far away. And as a cautionary tale, I think Chani's unwavering love and devotion play a key role in revealing the evils of charismatic tyranny. As Paul succumbs to the power of religious manipulation, using the Fremen to take down the Harkonnens, the Emperor, and restore House Atreides as rulers of the universe, Chani stands by him, with him. As counterintuitive as it may seem, there is no better image to communicate the evils of a false messiah than that one right there. If Chani defies him from the start, then Paul's victory becomes a result of her imprudence and inaction. But if she stands by him, if we root for him, then our ability to fall for such a charismatic leader becomes all the clearer. In the end, Paul leads Chani to her certain doom. This path is the only way he can finally free himself of the bounds of time and end the endless jihad waged throughout the galaxy in his name. She must die, and Paul must kill her. Chani is the unblemished lamb. She is there to be naive until the end, a perfect example of the well-intentioned, loyal believers who are the casualties of playing with such power and influence. Dune is the inversion of the hero's journey, the rise of the villain in the skin of this traditional arc, and Chani is the loyal woman who stands by his side the whole way through it. But unlike the hero's journey, since Paul is not a hero, it doesn't end happily. It ends in tragedy, which brings me back to the larger question of adaptations. The most important components of an adaptation are not the inclusion of every scene, character, and plot point, but the display of the narrative's themes, the overall voice of the author captured and projected onto the screen. And while some of the changes in these films I didn't mind, some of them I absolutely loved, I think the crucial shift in Chani's character irrevocably cripples this adaptation of Dune, and certainly makes doing the next one all the more complicated. But I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. I mean, did you like Dune 2? Did you think Chani's character was well adapted to the films? What were your favorite differences between the films and the books? Let me know in the comments down below. Like I said before, please feel free to check out the Patreon for free perks, ad-free videos, tons of awesome stuff, and to support the channel. And as always, keep reading, keep writing, and I will see you all in the next video.